Now, joining us in the studio to discuss President Moon's visit to Russia, we have Professor Shin Sang-hyup from Kyunghee University. Professor Shin, thank you for coming in today.
Pleased to be here today.
This is President Moon's first trip abroad since the U.S. and North Korea summit last week. And there's some significance in the timing of that, I feel, especially as Russia is a key regional player. What do you make of Moon's visit to Russia?
Well, he is right now paying his official visit to Russia, state visits. Last bit was made about 19 years ago, so it's quite meaningful. And this is the first summit diplomacy after the summit meeting between U.S. President Trump and then North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Well, I think the reason why he went to Russia, I think it can be summarized as two things. The first one is he wanted to get the Russia's support towards the denuclearization of North Korea. And then by doing so, he wanted to settle down the peace, not only on the Korean Peninsula, but also in the region. Second one, I think this is more important. If South Korea and North Korea could settle down the peace on the Korean Peninsula, maybe the economic cooperation with Russia seems to be more important than it is. Owing to the close relations with Russia, the North Korea could achieve the economic development. It was not enough, but they could achieve some economic development over the last years. But for the future economic development of North Korea, the cooperation with Russia seems to be very important. But not only the relations between cooperation with the Russia, but also the relations, economic relations, cooperation with South Korea, so-called the economic cooperation among three countries, such as Korea, North Korea, and Russia, seems to be very important for the economic future in all three countries. Let me give you some figure. For example, if they establish the gas pipeline on North Korea, trespassing the North Korea, connecting South Korea to the Eurasian countries, also trespassing Russia. Maybe Korea, it is estimated that South Korea could get about $4 million economic benefits every year, and North Korea could get the $1 million economic benefits every year. So this is just one example, but by having the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, they could have economic prosperity not only in these three countries, but also in the region.
Sure, and these are some of the things that President Moon covered in his his address to the State Duma, the Russian lower house. He's the first South Korean president to ever have done that as well. He went over various topics, as you said, the economic cooperation, to the history of the two countries as well. What in this speech stood out for you?
Well, as I already explained, they discuss about economic cooperation, and then Mr. President emphasized the importance of denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. It can be the stepping stone for the future economic cooperation among three countries. And if I add one thing more, President Moon Jae-in emphasized the cooperation between two countries in the IT industrial sector, which South Korea has competitiveness, and then the basic science knowledges which Russia has. If they combine very successfully, efficiently between the IT knowledges which South Korea has and then basic economic knowledges which Russia has, there must be very productive outcomes. And then Mr. President emphasized this one, and this can be one of the area where two countries could cooperate each other, and then this can be a good example of successful economic cooperation between two countries. And of course, on the top of this one, they emphasized how to cooperate, achieve the economic cooperation, particularly in the railroad. They discuss about how they cooperate on linking two Koreas with Russia by railroad, and they also discuss about economic cooperation on our strengthening the partnership and on the cooperation building the gas and electricity infrastructure.
You talked a little bit about the economic benefits, and earlier you talked about the economic benefits with North Korea as well.
Right.
Geographically, North Korea is in the middle of Russia and South Korea. But you talked about the benefits, but what are the obstacles of getting there?
Well, I think at the moment we cannot say that there are, no obstacles. But I want to rather use the preconditions for economic cooperation. What is it? That is the denuclearization of the North Korea. And that can be a first step for the future economic cooperation. Let me give you more detailed explanation. Right now, because of the North Korea, the economic cooperation between South Korea and China has been detouring the North Korea, right? But if we can solve the North Korean nuclear issues, then we don't have to detour the North Korea. That means let them invite to our economic cooperation. There must be some synergy effects in the economic cooperation between Korea and China, even with the participation of the North Korea. And then, as I already explained very briefly, Russia seems to be a very important player in achieving the economic cooperation in the region, right? Russia has abundant, energy resources, and they have a very vast land. So, for example, by building the railroad transpassing Russian continent, connecting South Korea to Europe, definitely there must be some huge economic benefits. For example, saving the transportation costs, and then and also they could be use abundant natural resources which Russia has. It could be definitely huge economic benefits for not only for Korea, North Korea, and Russia, and then by promoting the economic cooperation in these three countries, it can indirectly or directly promote the regional economies and then global economies. So it will be very important.
I mean, both Russia and Seoul are talking about this opportunity, if they work together to work with North Korea as well, the huge economic benefits that it could have for everyone involved.
Right.
But isn't it slightly jumping the gun at the moment? Because, as you said, despite North Korea and U.S. having friendly relations now and inter-Korean relations being good, it can always go back. It's still not resolved. Why would South Korea and Russia already, at this point, be wanting to pursue this kind of venture?
Because, still, we just started the talks for the complete and irreversible and then verifiable so-called denuclearization of North Korea. And still we have to wait the follow-up measures of North Korean government. Without any progress, in an effort to achieve the denuclearization of Korean Peninsula, more specifically speaking, denuclearization of North Korea, all those discussions cannot be realized. So, to make the persuade North Korea to implement what they agreed at the series of summit talks with the South Korean president and then USA president, we should make every effort. This can be those kind of efforts. Let them do what they promised. I think that can be the first step for the future economic and political cooperation between the USA and Russia and the North Korea and South Korea. So, of course, China. So, we could understand those kind of things in this context.
President Moon, when he's expected to talk with President Putin today, and they're expected to try and garner Putin's support in helping the process of denuclearization of North Korea.
Right.
But actually, what influence does Russia have right now over North Korea, and how can they help or hinder even?
Well, still the Russian role is not very clear. But we know that. It sounds quite contradictory, but the contribution of Russia seems to be very important in an effort to achieve the denuclearization of North Korea. So we should wait and see, what kind of role the Russian could play. Depending on the situation we will face, the role of the Russian government could be more concrete. And but at the time, as we discussed before, if they could have the economic cooperation with the USA and with South Korea particularly, they could, North Korea, and then they could get the huge economic benefits. As I already emphasized, that to do that, the denuclearization of North Korea seems to be the first step. So the Russia, I mean, they have enough motivation, reasons to persuade North Korea. Of course, there must be some political reasons, you know. If the North Korean nuclear crisis cannot be, solved, there must be continuous challenges to the security to all countries in the region, including Russia. It is not good for the Russia itself. So, I think that Russia has, political and economic reasons why they have to play some role in solving the North Korean nuclear crisis.
Kim Jong-un has now met President Moon, President Trump, and President Xi Jinping as well.
Right.
Now, the obvious leader next is Vladimir Putin. There is talk of that happening soon in the next few months or so. Do you think they will meet? And
I think so.
What will they talk about?
I think so. Definitely Russia is one of the major players in the region. It is also the fact that Russia was a little bit away from the negotiation to solve the denuclearization of North Korea. But certainly, what is certain is that they will not remain as outsider in the whole process to solve the North Korean nuclear issues. So, they will be invited, and they want to also participate in the negotiation. Definitely, so as long as we cannot prevent Russia from involving in this issue, then we have to welcome them, and then we have to also persuade them to be a real contributor to solve the North Korean denuclearization process. So in this context, I think if the Putin meet the Mr. President, the Trump, definitely they will discuss about how to solve the North Korean nuclear crisis, and at the same time they want to persuade how to persuade the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un not to change his stance about this issue.
So you just mentioned there Trump and Putin. It's understood that Trump and Putin are working towards some sort of summit, possibly in July. And before that, the U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton is on his way to Moscow later this month. Amid all the things that are happening between U.S. and Russia right now, North Korea, you would say, is still a key issue between the U.S. and Russia?
Right. I think so. You know, as I already emphasized 2 times, the Russia's, the North Korea should achieve the, should take the follow-up actions, measures to achieve the complete denuclearization in North Korea. Without it, we cannot make even one step further. Economic cooperation, no. Without the denuclearization of Korean Peninsula, it cannot be make it. And then, so definitely, what we do at the moment is that persuade Kim Jong-un and empathize what kind of the economic benefits that he could get from the denuclearization. So to make a long story short, definitely every country, involving country, seems to make every effort to persuade North Korea not to change their stance about the North Korean denuclearization issue.
Yes, I guess everyone has something to gain from it. That's all we have time for today, I'm afraid. But thank you for coming in as usual, and it's always great to have you with us.
My pleasure.